Can you talk about the process of how you became a judge of Canada's Drag Race?
Well, they asked me to, and I said yes. It's essentially the answer. There's not much more to it than that. They offered it to me, and I said, "Fuck yeah, of course I'll do that."
And what was the hardest part preparing for the competition?
It was not long. I don't exactly remember. I'm gonna say it was, yeah, I don't remember, but it was like less than a month, I believe. Um, and I think the hardest part was I was living in Nashville at the time. None of my designers were in Nashville, so I was flying to Chicago, I was flying to LA, and just kind of like going all over the place trying to collect everything and put it together. It was very stressful.
Hello, this is Miss Fierce Delicious with Queen Labs Network, and you're watching Drag Financial. Today's guest is a finalist from season 11 of RuPaul's Drag Race, a former Miss Continental, a renowned lip sync assassin, as well as trained ballerina. She now works as the host of Canada's Drag Race and craves One Queen, Five Queers. Welcome the Queen of the North and Justin Trudeau's favorite drag queen, Brooklyn Heights. Hello, Brooklyn. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing now that you're here.
Oh my God, thank you. Have you been having fun impersonating me on Twitter?
Yes, I've been having. What did you think of my tweets on Twitter this week?
Oh, I don't know. I have you muted, so I didn't even see.
Oh, drag me. And now a lot of people don't know this, but not only are we best friends, but you're also my drag mother.
Am I? That's news to me.
Look at us fighting already, just like family.
Well, I think your actual drag mother, Tulsi, would have something to say about that.
She's more like my pageant mother.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You have a ton of accomplishments under your belt, from Miss Continental, Drag Race, and now One Queen, Five Queers. Can you talk about the process of how you became a judge of Canada's Drag Race?
Well, they asked me to, and I said yes. It's essentially the answer. There's not much more to it than that. They offered it to me, and I said, "Fuck yeah, of course I'll do that."
Your show, One Queen, Five Queers, recently won Best Series. How does it feel earning that recognition on such a new and diverse series?
Winning the CSA for Best Series was incredible. It was incredibly validating and honestly really surprising. We were up against a lot of really big award shows or really big talk shows in Canada, like the Marilyn Dennis show, The Social, which are like kind of the two biggest ones. And we won. So it was incredible and very surprising. And it was just nice to feel seen and for all of the people who participated in the show to feel seen as well. And it was pretty cool for me as well. I mean, I was the executive producer of that show, and I'm pretty sure I'm the first drag queen in Canada to ever have to be an executive producer of a show. So it was kind of cool for me, but also just really cool for the community and everyone who worked so hard on the show as well.
What are some of the key differences between hosting One Queen, Five Queers and a Drag Race franchise?
Well, the differences are it's a lot quicker hosting One Queen, Five Queers. Once we start rolling, we are wrapped in probably about 3.5 hours. So it's a much quicker day. It's also less stressful because we don't have to send anybody home. We're just sitting there and talking about our lives and queer issues. So it's a lot more, it's a lot less stressful. You don't leave at the end of the day feeling bad because you crushed someone's dreams.
You had a key role in the cable movie The Bitch Who Stole Christmas alongside Kim Petras, RuPaul, and several other Drag Race stars. How was it working with RuPaul outside of a competition setting?
It was great. We only really shot one scene together. It was the one where he was about to fly away in the helicopter, and climb up the Christmas tree. If anybody's seen the actual movie,
I saw it, just
it
for
was
you.
really fun. He was really cool. And he's really really funny. He was just like he had his set lines, but then he just started improvising and just like going completely off script, and it was hysterical. I was actually right off camera when he was doing his lines. Like I was right beside the camera, so he was actually staring at me for a lot of it, and it was really funny.
Now, Brooke, you competed a few times in the Miss Continental pageant, both in 2013 and later in 2014, where you went to win. Can you give the audience who may not know a short history of Miss Continental and all the stages that are required to compete in the pageant?
Sure. Well, I believe Miss Continental started in the early 1980s, late 1970s. I'm not entirely sure of the history going back that far, but it's been around for a really long time, and it's long been known as probably the most premier drag pageant in the world. It's like the best of the best. It's the one everybody wants. It's like the ultimate in the pageantry world. So to compete in Miss Continental, you first have to win a preliminary, and there are preliminaries all over the States and now in Europe as well. So you have to go compete at one of those, and if you win that, then you got to go to nationals. And at nationals, the categories are: first you do group interview with 5 other contestants, and in front of the judges. Then they just ask you questions, and you all have to answer, which is actually harder than solo interview because you kind of have to like fight for your spot, and kind of like make your voice heard. And then the next day, the actual pageant starts. So the first night you will do, you go swimsuit, no, you do evening gown, swimsuit, talent, and then that's prelim night. And then the next night you go back and everyone does presentation, and then they call the top 10. And then those top 10 girls again do swimsuit, talent, evening gown, and then they narrow it down to a top 5, and the top 5 also does question and answer, and then from that the winner is crowned.
The first time you competed was back in 2013. Now tell us the process you went through preparing your package for the first time. What was the cost? How did you manage your time while preparing?
Well, I was pretty lucky because I had actually done another national pageant like a month before called Entertainer of the Year. And I placed first runner up at that pageant. And that was my first ever pageant I'd ever done in the States. And I made like a pretty big wave at that pageant. And the current reigning who is stepping down, her name is Mocha Montrese. She's a former Miss Continental. And she actually, she talked to me right after the pageant and she said, you should do Continental. I'm going to get you appointed at a preliminary. So basically, if a preliminary isn't able to happen that year, or for whatever reason, they're allowed to appoint a queen to go to nationals on their behalf. And you don't actually have to go to the preliminary. So I got appointed to go to Continental, and I literally just took my package that I had just done at Entertainer of the Year and brought it to Continental. So it was like I didn't really even have to think about anything. I just went and got it done. The total cost, so long ago, I'm going to say I probably spent about $7,000 on everything. Yeah, I would say about $7,000, which was not that much considering, like, for pageants, some people drop like 25 grand. But back in the day, that was a lot of money for me.
What lessons did you take away from losing in 2013 that you applied in 2014?
I think it's really just looking at your weak spots. For me, my weak spot was kind of question and answer and interview, because those are 2 categories I didn't really know anything about. And then just making sure when you go back the next year, you're really comfortable speaking in public and you really think about the question before you answer it. And remember, I think a lot of people get so nervous and worked up, they forget to actually answer the question.
What was the hardest part of competing in Miss Continental?
It's a pageant that moves very quickly. The whole pageant is usually done in about 2 hours. So literally when, like, let's say you walk on for swimsuit, you walk off, you have exactly, like, let's say there's 30 girls in the pageant, you're number 15. You walk off stage, you have 15 other girls to model swimsuit, and then like an entertainer before you have to be ready for the next category. So it moves extremely, extremely quickly. So you have to be really smart about how you do it. Like, for instance, final night, the year I won, I had my swimsuit underneath my presentation costume. So I literally had to, and I had my swimsuit hair on just like pinned up. So I literally had to go backstage, unzip my costume. I was in my swimsuit, take my hair down, and I was ready to go. So you got to think smart like that.
What package was harder, Miss Continental or Drag Race?
Oh, definitely Drag Race. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you get into drag?
I kind of discovered drag when I was like probably about 16 years old. I went to the ballet school in Canada, or in Toronto, the National Ballet School in Toronto, and it was right in the gay village. So I kind of have to walk through the village every day to get to the subway to go home and get to school. And so I saw lots of drag queens just out and about, and I was always kind of intrigued by it. And then I kind of started doing drag when I was 19 and was able to go to the bars.
Can you tell us what went through your head while preparing the tape for your competition? What were the requirements?
I mean, preparing the tape for Drag Race is really hard because you don't exactly know what they want. Like, do they want it super, like a lot of people go the route and like make it like a production and like a proper like video, and then other people just like slap a bunch of shit together. So you never really, I'm never really sure which route to go. So I ended up kind of just kind of making it as simple as possible and not going too over the top with it, because this was my third year auditioning and I had gotten pretty far the year before, so I kind of knew that they were interested in me. So I was like, I don't need to do everything. So I just kind of made a bunch of videos and then I just edited it together. The hardest part of the whole tape is I think they don't give you a lot of time to squeeze everything in. So you have to be like, everything is kind of like a lightning round. Like when you have to answer the interview questions and all this stuff, like because I don't know what it's like now, but back in the day it was so much stuff they wanted, and putting it all together and making it within the time frame, because they were like, if you're over this certain amount of time, we will not watch your video. So that was stressful.
How long did it take you to prepare your package for the competition, and what was the hardest part preparing for the competition?
It was not long. I don't exactly remember. I'm gonna say it was yeah, I don't remember, but it was like less than a month, I believe. Um, and I think the hardest part was I was living in Nashville at the time. None of my designers were in Nashville, so I was flying to Chicago, I was flying to LA, and just kind of like going all over the place trying to collect everything and put it together. It was very stressful.
Some queens have talked about the financial commitment that it takes to compete on Drag Race. Was that ever a burden for you?
No, not for me, because I had like some rainy day money, I called it. I've been saving up money just for whatever, some cash on the side. So I had money. I'm quite cheap though. So I didn't want to spend a lot of it. In hindsight, I wish I had spent a little bit more. I see some of these girls spending like 50K on a package now, and I think that's a little bit ridiculous. Like, I get you have to spend money to make money, but like that's a lot. That's a lot of money to put into something. So I didn't feel the need, especially back in the day. I don't think it's like today where everyone's expected to have like a designer package, basically. Back in the day, like even season 11 is back in the day now. It wasn't, I don't think it was as fancy yet. And it hadn't been like, I think every season it kind of ups itself in the level of drag and the level of stuff people bring to the show. And I don't feel like we were that fancy yet in season 11.
What's something you didn't know before going into the competition, and what would you do differently now that you know?
Something I didn't know going into the competition. I mean, I didn't know anything going into the competition. Like I never filmed anything on TV before. So I just didn't know, I didn't know how hard it would be and how demanding it would be, like physically and emotionally. The days are long and it's tough. It's really fun at the end of the day, and it's a really cool thing to do, but it's a really hard thing to go through, because you kind of are stripped of everything, you're stripped of your phone, of your contact with the outside world, and then you're asked to do a lot of these things which you probably have never done before, like do an acting challenge or snatch game or whatever. So you're kind of just like, and every day you have no idea what's going to happen next is also scary. Like it's like every day, like you walk in and you literally are like, what is going to happen today? So there's lots of unknowns. If I could go back and do it again, I would have more fun. I think I got in my head a lot and I was so worried about being perfect all the time. I would definitely go back and just be a little bit more relaxed and enjoy the whole experience, because looking back on it now, what a cool thing to have gone through. But I think in the moment, I was just very stressed. So I'll go back and I would have fun. And I also would have spent a little bit more money on my looks and stuff. But yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with our weekly content. And don't forget to hit the like button and leave us a comment below to let us know who you want to see next. And if you want early or exclusive content, make sure to support us here. Now click here to see the next part of our interview.